Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. I want to start with a shout out to firefighters in my state, the state of Missouri. Earlier this year, in March of this year, the Forest Service began a prescribed burn in the Mark Twain National Forest down at the southeast part of my state. And this prescribed burn was led by a new all-veteran firefighting crew, which is just tremendous. There's been great reports on it throughout the state. And I think that this is a great model for what we can do. I see you nodding along, Ms. Hall Rivera. So I'm very proud of those firefighters, very proud of these vets, and proud of the model that they are, I think, showing for the rest, or setting up for the rest of the country. Ms. Hall Rivera, let me ask you about the Forest Service role in a different regard when it comes to mining approvals for essential critical minerals. Would you agree with me that critical minerals are vital to our energy security?
Yes, I would agree with that, Senator.
The International Energy Agency estimated earlier this year that lithium demand is expected to grow by 400% by 2040. Cobalt and nickel between 200 and 250% by 2040. Copper demand supposed to go up more than double by 2040. Now, here's the thing that worries me. One nation in the world is currently refining 68% of the world's nickel. Would you care to take a guess who that might be?
I would presume China.
It is China. One nation is refining 40% of the world's copper. Want to guess who that is?
I would presume the same.
It's China. One nation has 59% of the lithium and 73% of the cobalt. Want to guess?
I'm going to say China.
It's China. You've got it. It is China. So given that, would you agree with me that it's important that we do everything we can to develop our domestic critical mineral mining here in this country?
Yes, I would agree with that, Senator.
Great. Okay, then let me ask you about the Superior National Forest in Minnesota. Earlier this year, partly at the behest of the Forest Service, the Biden administration withdrew 225,000 acres of critical mineral mining in northeastern Minnesota. This is the largest reserve of cobalt and nickel in the United States, perhaps I'm told maybe even in the world, and yet your administration shut it down. Your agency recommended that it be shut down, depriving us of these minerals, making us dependent on other nations that mine them in a completely unsafe and unsustainable way, and also making us more dependent on these foreign nations. Why?
Well, Senator, I do want to say I'm not an expert on that process. That's not a part of the Forest Service that I oversee. I know we have a lot of values to balance there, especially with the Boundary Waters Wilderness area, but I'm sure that we could get back to you with more details on the specifics of that decision.
Would you? That would be helpful, if you would. I would really appreciate it, because here's my view. My view is we shouldn't be making China richer and America poorer. My view is we have the best technology in the world to mine and develop these minerals. We know how to do it in a safe and responsible manner. We should be doing it. And listen, I've heard from people all over the country, but particularly people in this part of the country, who have said that this decision is devastating to their region economically, but I just submit it's devastating to our energy security and our national security. And at a time when I hear from this administration, climate change, climate change, climate change, we need to have reliable, sustainable sources of energy, why would we want to tie our own hands and make us and the world more dependent on China, who've got to be the worst environmental record of any nation in the world? If they're not the worst, they got to be close. So I just don't get it, and I'd appreciate you getting back to me on that. With my few remaining seconds here, Mr. Johnson, let me just ask you, in your testimony, your written testimony, you talked about barriers that federal agencies face when they're trying to recruit and retain firefighters. I agree with you that this is critically important. I want to highlight a bill that Senator Ossoff and I introduced last year called the Fire Station Improvement Act, which would cut red tape, expand the Assistance to Firefighters grant, allow new funds to improve facilities, protect the health and safety of our firefighters. Do you think an effort like that is necessary, needed, number one, and number two, what else do we need to do?
Yes, thank you, Senator. All efforts to help build capacity to address the wildfires would be very helpful. And also, as we've heard today, any efforts that because a lot of these barriers are interrelated, so dealing with some of the poor work-life balance, some of the mental health challenges, all of these will go a very long way to addressing the barriers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hickenlooper.